With the announcement of Banjo Kazooie being added to Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, many people, including myself, have revisited or picked up the game for the first time. While it seems that most people are really fond of the first game even now, they tend not to enjoy the second game quite as much or at all. Well, what happened here? At the time of release, Banjo Tooie received glowing reviews, and even myself up until about 2 years ago thought Tooie was the better game until I had revisited it then. I'm here to explore the strengths of the first game and why the sequel took the direction it did. To be clear, this isn't a complete review, but rather a dissection of the first two games and why there's a disconnect. I'm about to go into deep details about Banjo Kazooie, Banjo Tooie, and a little less deeper into Super Mario 64. If you haven't played these games, this is your spoiler warning. Having played these games will enhance this video for you, but hopefully will gain something regardless. I'm about to tell you more about these games than you'd probably ever care to know, unless you're a maniac like myself. I would also like to say that I still think both these games are very good, even if I don't like every single aspect of them. Before we explore Banjo Kazooie and the changes made in Banjo Tooie, we need to talk about Project Dream and Super Mario 64. After wrapping up development for Donkey Kong Country 2, Project Dream was to be a new IP by Rare, and according to their own words, it was going to be their take on an adventure game, because they were massive fans of Zelda, JRPGs, and LucasArts point-and-click games. Now, just keep that in your brain, because we're going to come back to it. Anyways, it was built to be an adventure in a fantastical world, and eventually once development moved over to 64, many changes were being made to the game. The world was changing and they grew less fond of the generic boy Edison, and ended up giving Banjo the lead role. With no end in sight to this grand adventure game they were building, they decided to turn back on platforming. From early beta footage you could see it was going to be similar to Crash Bandicoot, kind of 2.5D. Luckily though, the Dream Team got to see an early build of Mario 64 and decided one last time to change directions. A bit more than a year later, the game was released, and the world had a new subgenre in its hands. Looking at Mario 64's structure and then comparing it to Banjo Kazooie's shows us the path down to Banjo Tooie. Now, one major difference is that Mario is as powerful from the start of the game as he is at the end of the game, outside of temporary power-ups. Looking at Mario's basic moveset, he can jump, double jump, triple jump, wall kick, jump dive, ground pound, backflip, side flip, long jump, a slide kick, punch, sweep kick, pick up and throw items, and crawl. And now looking at Banjo's basic moveset, he can jump, double jump, claw swipe, roll, jump attack, backflip, beak barge. Banjo then goes on to learn challenge, beak buster, fire eggs, and wonder wing. Note that these are their abilities that they can do at any time. Both can learn or perform more context-sensitive actions such as flying, speed shoes, cannons, transformations, riding on shells, etc. As you can see, more of Banjo's abilities are context-sensitive, despite both characters having diverse moveset. Even some of his moves that are available to him at all times require ammo like the eggs and gold feathers. Overall, Banjo has more answers to puzzles, and Mario has solutions to problems, in most cases. In a puzzle, you have to guess what the designer of the puzzle was thinking and give the appropriate answer to solve it. In a problem, you have to decide for yourself what you can do to solve the problem, given your tools. If that's a little obtuse or convoluted, I'll try to help you understand with some examples. If you see this ledge on the way to Click Clock Woods, the only way for me to go up here is to backflip. If the same ledge was in Mario, I could double jump, side flip, wall jump, or backflip. In contrast, here's a scenario that I really like in Shifting Sandland. To get to this ledge, you can do a side flip, triple jump on this shy guy for a boost. It's never required of you to get on this platform for any of the stars in this level, but a player who has mastered Mario's moveset is rewarded with quicker and more efficient options. If we were to reverse the situation, the only way Banjo may reach a similar height ledge would be the use of a spring pad or flight pad, and there's no real equivalent in Banjo Kazooie. Banjo is filled with moments like this. There's largely one way to do things, and I don't think it's by accident or misunderstanding how Mario works. What is the major collectible of Banjo Kazooie? A jigsaw puzzle piece. There's also a larger skill floor and skill ceiling with Mario's moveset. Many of Banjo's actions are more forgiving thanks to the difference in their double jump and the more strict inputs for Mario. Let's compare the double jumps for each character. Mario's double jump actually isn't a mid-air jump. It's used to gain more height if you jump shortly after landing from a successful jump. Banjo's double jump lets him completely change directions in mid-air and extended air time, but does not gain him any meaningful height. This makes Banjo's platforming challenges easier by default, but also allows him to have different challenges that would be quite frustrating in Mario, like scaling the tree and click clock wood. Mario's moveset is great for moving forward and carrying that momentum. You can't really change that momentum in the air without wall jumping. The great thing about both these characters is how fluid it is to move with them, and to cancel their animations to keep the momentum going. Most things in Mario are meant to be a complement to platforming, while Banjo doesn't have those same priorities. Banjo is about using the controls to make exploring these worlds fun and figuring out what to do. The overworld and in-game worlds felt more believable and added more lore to the narrative. In Super Mario 64, you really needed to use your imagination to try and contextualize anything. For instance, I guess this is a floating tower. I'm in a clock. Something. But, I don't know. Whereas in Banjo, it's very clear that this is a forest. This is an Egypt-style desert. This is a swamp. You know where you are. And each world had its own fun and interesting characters to meet and help. Banjo is not about execution tests. The game doesn't even ramp up in difficulty until its final levels. And in the Xbox re-release, you don't have to stay alive the entire time for a full clear. Every note you gather is now permanently in your collection. Banjo Kazooie even only has one singular room that features something that will instantly kill you. Falling in the engine room in Rusty Bucket Bay, which is generally the most hated room in the game and even sours the whole level for some people, is the only thing that will kill you instantly. In Super Mario 64, there's instant kill pits as early as the second level, and by the end of the game, levels like Rainbow Ride are more death trap than it is level. I'm not here to tell you which one's better. They're both good fits for the games they were trying to make. What I'm trying to convey to you is that despite having similar outlines and powers, the design philosophy is completely different. And after all that, I think it's finally time we start talking about Banjo Tooie. Now, what do you want out of the sequel from a game like Banjo Kazooie? Do you beef up his moveset and create worlds where more freeform, increase the skill of the game? Or do you raise the bar with the aspects that you already beat Mario in? Colorful and comedic worlds with memorable characters that still have good content with the Banjo universe. Well, we already know what the option they went with. They doubled down on having exploration and puzzle solving be the major aspects, and trying to flesh out the world. It's not surprising why they went with this decision. Dream Team had always wanted to make a great adventure game. Anyways, as a result, Banjo Tooie is a lot longer, larger, tougher, vastly more open game, far more story, boss battles, world building, character interactions, and cutscenes. I mean, just looking at this image alone, let's see how many different characters in this game. The first game's plot went along with very fairy tale tropes of a mean witch kidnapping your sister and it's your job to save her, but the story went along very quickly. In fact, for experienced players, it's possible to start a new file and full clear Mumbo's Mountain in under 20 minutes. Under the same hour, you can finish Treasure Trove Cove and be midway into your third level. Compared to Banjo Tooie, where there's a need for a larger setup for a story that eventually leads to two more villains, Grunty's revival and Bottle's death. Not only is that far more darker, but more involved than its predecessor, but it's also lengthy. It takes 11 minutes for the opening cutscene alone to play. A few more minutes get to the first boss, followed by more cutscenes raising the stakes even higher, putting the entire island at risk. It takes approximately 30 minutes to get into the first world normal gameplay starts. Then another 40 minutes to clear Mayhem Temple, which you can't even finish completely until you go to the Glitter Gulch mine to learn the drill move and backtrack to break this boulder. Something that would be possible with a regular Beak Buster in Banjo Kazooie and then there's a stark contrast between the two games, and this is where the disconnect begins. Even to get started in Banjo Tooie is far more drawn out than Banjo Kazooie. Comparing the progression and unlocking levels is more similar than you might actually think. In Banjo Kazooie, you're blocked by note doors from unlocking the upper levels against each tower that give you extra later levels. You also have to find the puzzle picture for the level and have the important amount of jiggies. In Banjo Tooie, the later areas are locked by moves. The plateau is locked behind the grip grab, the cliff top is locked behind the split up pad, the wasteland is locked behind Talent Torpedo, the quagmire is locked behind Springy Step Shoes, Cauldron Keep locked behind the Claw Clamor Boots. You might think this is different because of the lack of note doors, but the jam jar lessons require notes to learn as opposed to the free lessons from bottles. In both games, the levels you had to play were somewhat flexible. They had moments of linearity but also ones of choice, but you were less incentivized to do so in Banjo Tooie. Since there's far more lessons, you don't really want to miss them. It's better to go through them linearly and backtrack later. You might not even realize it's possible to do them out of order because you have to unlock them all in a specific order. Both games require a certain amount of G's to enter a world, but you can unlock any world in Banjo Kazooie if you could reach it. You have to do Mumbo's Mountain first, and you have to do Treasure Trove Cove second. Then you could enter Bubblegloom Swamp or Clanker's Cavern. Generally speaking, you're supposed to do Clanker's Cavern first, but it doesn't really matter. After that, you can enter Freezy Peak and you can enter Gobi's Valley, even if you haven't entered Clanker's Cavern at all. You also have to do Mad Monster Mansion before Rusty Bucket Bay and Click Clock Wood, but either of those two can be completed in whatever order. Personally, I always do Bubblegloom Swamp before Clanker's Cavern, Freezy Peak before Gobi's Valley, and Click Clock Wood before Rusty Bucket Bay. In BT, you have to do Mayhem Temple first, and then you go into either Glitter Gulch Mine or Witchy World second. But it's better to go into Glitter Gulch Mine first, because you'll be missing out on two potential jiggies if you go into Witchy World. After those, you have to go into Jolly Roger Bay to unlock the Wasteland, and from there you could potentially enter Pterodactyl Land or Hailfire Peaks, and you'll need to enter Pterodactyl Land before you enter Grundy's Industry, but you can enter Hailfire Peaks before that. Lastly, as soon as you clear the entry to the Wasteland and obtain 45 jiggies, you can enter Cloud Cuckoo Land, which in itself is the only completely optional level across both games. Progression feels far more non-linear than before, and backtracking between worlds is mandatory to 100% complete the game. Technically, it is possible just to finish a game by going through every level and getting the most amount of G's you can get through one straight go through, but most people aren't going to experience that. They're going to experience having to backtrack and hop in between worlds to see what you can get. Most levels in Banjo Kazooie though are pretty self-contained, and most moves you learn are Mumbo's Mountain with 3 different lessons, Treasure Trove Cove has 2 lessons, and then each level that has another lesson only has that single lesson. What this means is that once you go into a world, you can full clear a level, getting every collectible without any mandatory backtracking, except for 2 exceptions. If you choose to clear Freezy Peak before Gobi's Valley, you'll have to backtrack to Freezy Peak with the Turbo Trainers for 1 Jiggy. Conversely, if you choose to clear Gobi's Valley before Freezy, you'll have to backtrack with the Beak Bomb to get 1 Jiggy and 8 notes in Gobi's Valley. Whether or not it's a good thing is a matter of opinion. Levels in Banjo Tooie cannot be fully completed without either power-ups, items, or entering from a different level, and backtracking to completely prior objectives or be completely in a future level, with the only exception being Cloud Cuckoo Land. Hell, you can't even start Grundy's Industry proper without first entering the level, opening a train station, leaving the level, and using the train from another level. The first 2 levels all leave you with 9 out of 10 jiggies remaining, and once you get to Pterodactyl Land, you get even less so. In Banjo Kazooie, you have to, at minimum, collect 94 jiggies and 810 notes to finish the game, which means you have to visit all the worlds. In Banjo Tooie, you only need 70 of the total 90 jiggies to enter the final boss battle. That means a full 20 jiggies are skippable, so if they have some bad or boring quests, and believe me, there are, it's on you if you want to skip it. Now for what I think is the biggest dissonance between the 2 games is how you acquire jiggies. Many jiggies in Banjo Kazooie in the early game were either sitting at the end of a platforming challenge, light puzzle solving, or a mini game. If you look at the clear times for each of these levels, you can see most of the levels can be completed fairly quickly. To say the worlds are too big is to miss the point. There's even less platforming challenges in this game than the last one, and missions often revolve around quests for NPCs. Banjo Kazooie was at its best when simply going through the level could make you some immediate progress. Freezy Peak does this well with the presents that you need to collect for Blocky's kids. You don't have to actively look for them because they are often either on the path of a different quest or easily visible while doing something else, and lends itself to a nice sense of momentum. While it isn't rather difficult, it does feel satisfying to accomplish. Banjo Tooie tries to emulate and evolve this feeling to varying levels of success. In Witchy World, first-time players might initially walk into the center tent and are tasked to gather tickets to enter the show. Gathering these tickets is very natural once you know how to defeat the slot enemies. You'll probably be excited to defeat all of them and get tickets by accident. This in combination with learning the airborne aiming skill will give you access to the show, which turns into a boss battle. This is a good way to have a sense of mystery, have momentum, and encourage exploration, and possibly find more quests. And not have the first thing you do be a boss battle, but still have it be a centerpiece for level design. The best thing is that all of this can be done before you even step foot into the tent. Banjo Tooie is at its worst when the quests are more time consuming and feel like chores as opposed to being a reward for exploring the world. One of the quests that is really bad at this is from Pterodactyl Land. In order to get this jig, you have to help Scrawny's kids. The first kid you need to break open this rock, leave the area, switch with Mumbo, come back to this area and use the pad, and then go back to switch to Banjo. The second kid you might have already found in Witchy World. This is the optimal scenario in which you already know where the kid is and they've already freed him for his cage. If not, you have to go into Witchy World, head to the Cave of Horrors, shoot your grenade to free him from his cage, and have him enter the train and take it back to Pterodactyl Land. The last kid, you have to split up Banjo Kazooie, use the taxi pack power up if you already have it. If not, you have to go and leave and go get it. Take the kid to the train. From there, you have to reunite with Kazooie, take the train into the cliff tops, go and switch with Mumbo and use the pad to
Context sensitive.
the train, and watch an extensive cutscene as he does so. Then you have to switch back with Banjo, go onto the train, and take it back to Pterodactyl Land. Finally, after all that painstaking work, you are rewarded with 1 Jiggy. 1/70th, which is required to complete the game, or 1/90th, 100% complete the game. A mission like this in Banjo Kazooie would have gotten you a Jiggy for each kid. Maybe 2 Jiggies and an empty honeycomb piece. Fighting Terry essentially gives you 2 Jiggies and the possibility of getting a third. I know boss battles should be more rewarding, but they could have balanced it better. The game even seems to be aware of how egregious a Jiggy is to get. If you think that was long and drawn out to listen to, then you have experienced 1/1000th of the pain and agony it is to actually complete that mission. This isn't the only mission like this. Fetch quests and chores instead of platforming or exploration. Now, I don't want to get off the impression that Banjo Tooie didn't do anything right with the Banjo Kazooie formula. Being able to find the shortcuts in between the levels is really cool and helps feel like the world is connected. You can even see the island and its levels from Cloud Cuckoo Land. Also, actually giving you objectives that use the shortcuts is cool because it makes it seem like the characters in the game are really part of a larger society or ecosystem. That being said, I really don't think it needed to be this way to still achieve this effect. The fun of Banjo Kazooie was as you were exploring the levels and met interesting and funny characters, there was something you could immediately do with them and be rewarded for it. Banjo Tooie slowly gets more and more segmented with its reward structure until you reach Cloud Cuckoo Land, when it becomes more focused again. I really appreciate what the developers try to do with this game, and I love many aspects of it. Some of the characters in this game are very funny, some of them surprisingly dark, but still very funny. The increase in the bosses is really cool and fun, even if not all of them took the landing, they're all at least novel enough to warrant their inclusion. All the new transformations had far more uses than one Banjo Kazooie, where usually Banjo would only get smaller. Now they have diverse abilities and challenges. It may be an unpopular opinion, but I particularly found the washing machine of Grunty's Industries to be interesting. The Tower of Tragedy is leagues ahead of Furnace of Fun, even if just removing the RNG instant death blocks. The new minigames in first-person mode were a great addition too. All the new moves are fun to play with, more inventive and used in interesting ways. And it's even easier and faster to move the bear and bird through the world. The raised stakes definitely had an impact on me as a kid, and I felt genuine sadness seeing Bottles dead, seeing the destroyed house, and the sad version of Spiral Mountain theme made me feel bad. And even though we just met him, the zombified Jinjo King gave me this weird feeling of dread. Now that I think about it, I'm not so surprised that he's such a fucked up adult. More than anything, I just really respect what this game tried to do. It would have been easy just to make a few more levels and just make the same game again. But instead, this game had ambition. Since the start of Project Dream, the team wanted to make an adventure for the ages, and in many ways they succeeded, just split into 2 games. Banjo will always be fondly remembered at minimum for the first game, and now hopefully a new generation of gamers will get to love him with his inclusion of Smash. Not to mention the 3D platform genre isn't dead, with the hits of Super Mario Odyssey and Hat in Time carrying the torch. So let's see what the future has in store for this genre. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next mission.